Hey, 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 hey. Let's go ahead and get some vibes. You should be able to hear me just fine now. So, today the plan is simple. We are gonna go on r/self improvement and give some unsolicited life advice to people. Because, like many other redditors, I think I can solve other people's problems. So, let's see if that's true. Okay, let's see. First, we're gonna answer some questions from the top. The first one people have is the first one this person has is how do people still have energy for life after work? I wouldn't say that my job is hard, but I come home completely drained. While some people manage a family and still have hobbies, what am I doing wrong? Let's take a look at what people have to say first. That's funny. I'm over here just wondering how people have energy for life. Mate, I'm a tradie and I used to feel the exact same way after 10-hour days on my suit. Turns out I was just eating like shit and not sleeping properly. Was getting 56 hours, was getting maybe 56 hours of sleep and wondering why I felt like that. Started meal prepping on Sundays, etc., etc. Absolutely. Made a massive difference in 2 weeks. This is the real answer, basically. Right? If you are and I'm not going to bother replying to people who already have good answers. Obviously, I'll just be adding to the noise. A good question, good answer. And let's see. My take on this is basically the same. The number one thing you can do to feel like you have more energy after work and such is obviously you got to sleep well and you got to eat well. But it's kind of hard to get started with those. So I think the information that I would like to add here is a couple places for people to actually get started with doing that, right? For sleep, I actually, because people ask me this a lot, and sleep is very, very often the answer. I just wrote my own quick little summary based on books like Why We Sleep and Ali Abdal's videos and many more research papers. And this is set up right here. Oh, and I forgot. Let me switch to so you can see my screen. Oh, yeah, okay. Let's see. What do we have here? This is the question we were just answering. How do people still have energy for life after work? You know, people complain about being drained and such. And the answer is getting good sleep, eating better. There is a little bit more than that, which I'll get to in a second. But first, with getting good sleep, how do you get good sleep? This is a rabbit hole that so many people go down. It took me, myself, years to get my sleep improved. But now I think I have pretty much all of the answers when it comes to getting good sleep. And I've sort of just accumulated that on this website here. It's just swarnim.me/sleep. And it's quite straightforward. That all of this is just like exposition for why sleep is important in case you didn't already know, but you can just skip down to the bottom here. And there's just a few simple setup steps, right? So blackout blinds and eye mask, it's super important to have like a dark room. Quiet environment, don't have noise, have a good comfortable temperature that you like. A good mattress and good pillow are long-term investments that you should make, but you don't have to do that today, right? That can come in time. The biggest thing that I would say matters actually is this. I definitely need to reorder this, but most people sleep way too less. And this happens especially for people who drink a lot of caffeine, right? So studies recommend that most people sleep for at least 7 to 8 hours. Now, this figure is very vague and generalized a lot of the time, but it changes a lot based on your gender, your age, your weight, things like that, how what your lifestyle is, right? For example, if you're regularly going to the gym and weightlifting, then you're going to need like an additional 1 hour of sleep at least to what you'd need as your baseline. And a lot of people I've seen would say something like, hey, I feel great with just 6 hours of sleep. And very rarely, that is actually true. But in almost all of the cases I've seen, when people say some absurdly low amount and say that that's enough sleep for them, it's usually just because they, one, very straightforwardly, aren't used to feeling well rested. They don't know the feeling of getting good sleep and what that makes your day feel like. Sometimes, if they haven't done that in a while, it might even feel weird for the first day or two. And the other big problem that I see is people drinking caffeine. Even there are guidelines for caffeine intake, so it affects sleep not as much. Like if you take like 50 mg 12 hours before bed and at least 1 or 2 hours after you wake up, after you've had a little bit something to eat, then it has the least effect. But that doesn't mean it has no effect on sleep, right? Even for one of the studies I saw somewhere showed that there was a big difference, like a 1.5 hour average sleep time difference between people who regularly used caffeine and who didn't. Right? So people who drink caffeine might just not be asleep for longer. Even if you drank it in the morning, that night, you might even sleep fine, right? For some people, it doesn't even affect sleep onset as much. For some, it does a lot. For me, myself, it affects sleep onset a lot. So I stay even further away from it. But even if it doesn't affect sleep onset for you, it does affect your wake time, right? Just as a simple example, if you go to bed at like midnight every day and wake up at 8 a.m., if you regularly start drinking caffeine, you will go to bed at midnight and regularly wake up at 7 a.m. So you will just end up waking sooner and not getting the sleep that you need. But because you still have like a natural wake up, you'll feel like, oh yeah, I had enough sleep, that's why my body woke up. But actually you didn't have enough sleep. So I would highly recommend, like, if you are a regular drinker of caffeine, definitely try cutting out caffeine for at least 1 to 2 weeks and seeing if you end up sleeping longer as a result and if your sleep quality improves. Right? But then besides that, there's a bunch of other important things here, right? Having a night routine, sleeping at the same time every day, not doing anything else in your bedroom, getting exercise of all three kinds, specifically like 90 minutes of intense cardio per week, weightlifting at least 3 times a week, getting 10,000 steps in addition to both of those every day, right? Getting morning sunlight helps your circadian rhythm get triggered. Not laying in bed awake for too long helps you not associate being with wakefulness with bedtime. It helps you not associate wakefulness with bedtime, wherein that helps you just fall asleep a little bit easier. Evening sunlight also is a great trigger for your circadian rhythm to get started at the right time for falling asleep. Meditation, even just 3 to 5 minutes before bed, helps it massively with like calming down your racing thoughts and such. And this is another very important, very underrated tip, which is setting aside time for unstructured thought. Because what happens is your brain sort of has a backlog of things that it needs to constantly process, right? It needs to process everything you've gone through during the day, anything you're worried about, etc. And processing doesn't mean solving those problems necessarily. It just needs to think about them for a little bit before it can feel like, okay, I've processed those and we can deal with it later, right? For a lot of people, what happens is if they'll be busy all day, they'll be working, or if they're free, they're on YouTube, they're playing video games, but they never set aside time, like an hour, to just do nothing. For some people, this accidentally becomes a part of their schedule, like if they do the dishes or they're if they're sweeping the floor, or they're just vibing to music. It's very easy to let unstructured thought happen. But for most people, I recommend consciously making sure that every single day you spend at least an hour just letting your thoughts process. Another thing to add to this is journaling before bed too, or journaling in general. If you just spend like 5 minutes writing down about your day, what you did, and journaling doesn't have to be descriptive though. It can just be whatever you want it to be. You can just talk about what you're feeling, what you're looking forward to, some how you feel about something that happened, etc. You don't have to talk about every single thing like I ate this, I did this, XYZ, whatever. Right? Just say what matters. You don't have to even be complete. Just stop when you feel like it. Doing that once again just helps you massively clear the queue of unlimited thoughts in your brain, and it'll help you feel calmer and be more ready for sleep. Right? What happens when you don't do this is if you don't have any time set aside for unstructured thought, then the moment you go into your bed and you lay down, your brain goes, okay, finally we've stopped all of the external stimulation and I can think about all the things I need to process. And then people lay in bed for like 2 hours just thinking about life, and they wonder, why do I always get these thoughts late at night, etc. It's just because they haven't caught up on unstructured thought. If you just let that happen during the day, then at night there won't be more unstructured thought for you to catch up on, most days at least. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I have a little example routine here. But honestly, what I would recommend is just like checking every single one of these as a box. Right? These aren't tips where, oh, you can do a few of these and it'll improve your sleep. Sure, that is the case, but more than improving your sleeps, not doing these really fucks up your sleep. Right? So if you're doing almost all of this right, but you don't do like any one or two of these, that will still just give you bad sleep. So you have to do every single one of these sufficiently well for you to get actually good quality sleep. And yeah, try doing this. At first, it can feel complicated because there's so much advice. But again, all you have to do is take this advice and turn it into a simple schedule for your day. Right? For a lot of people, most of these will just be checked automatically in the routine. So they just need to be conscious about the ones that they're not already doing. And yeah, turns into a pretty simple schedule that you can follow every day. And that should improve your sleep quality. And improving your sleep quality, again, like I said, will ultimately result in having better energy every single day. The same thing goes for healthy eating. With healthy eating, there is another resource I really want to share because the internet is filled with advice on healthy eating. Like YouTube is filled with advice on, this is healthy, this is not. People say ghee is healthy, ghee is not, etc., etc. There's a whole discussion on saturated fat being unhealthy. And the problem with, again, all of this is that there's just so much information that it's not possible for any single human being to meaningfully take advice from the internet and process it. So instead of me giving my share of advice on top of all of that, I'm just going to point you to a single resource, which is Eat, Sleep, Be Healthy, and so there's a book by Harvard, basically. There's a book that Harvard publishes every single year that combines all nutritional information. Oh, it's Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy, not Eat, Sleep. Yeah, it's this book, basically. This is a book they publish every single year. Because every year new research comes out and what's healthy gets reconsidered by science. But normal people, if you try to follow individual research papers, will just feel that there's so much contradictory information. Like you'll find a research paper that says X is healthy, and then you'll find another research paper that says X is not healthy. So which do you believe? But science isn't binary like that. Right? If there's one research paper that says X is not healthy and there's 500 that say X is healthy, then the evidence as a whole is massively towards it actually being healthy. Right? So, but you don't have to sit down and look at all of the research papers, compile all this data, because Harvard has already done it for you. And in this book, you don't even have to read the entire book. The first 2 chapters are enough for you to get a very simple, very accurate breakdown on what today is considered healthy. And another big piece of, another big question that people have is, if science keeps changing what is healthy, like this book might say this is healthy this year, and then the next year maybe we find something new and it says that's actually not healthy. So why bother even keeping up with science? Because, and I want to explain that with a very simple diagram, right? our understanding is forever increasing, right? Our understanding keeps going higher and higher. Like every year we understand a little bit more about health, how our body works, how sleep works, and so on. What happens basically is if I say make a graph like this, I should really use the inbuilt lines for this. So let's say I have a graph something like this, right? There's a graph like this, and on this axis you have time, and on this axis you have belief. So this is for any given thing, but I'm giving you a general representation. If there is a dotted line that represents truth, right? Let's say this is like God's truth or nature's truth, right? Then science starts to understand, let's say somewhere here. Well, that is a thick line. Yeah. Science, let's say, starts its understanding somewhere here. It kind of goes back and forth around it. So we might say something is good, something is bad. But over time, the deviations kind of hone in towards the truth, right? So maybe at first, like in 1990s, you might have said, oh, eat a lot of butter and like orange juice and it's super healthy. And we're like, oh, hey, orange juice is actually super unhealthy. And then they're like, oh, actually, there's some vitamins, it's kind of healthy. So it's a little bit unhealthy. But over time, our understanding gets closer and closer towards the actual truth. So it still matters whether you're taking advice from here versus you're taking advice from here. So every year, keeping up with the latest advice is a really good way of making sure that for most things, you're going to have mostly correct advice. And that advice, on average, will become more correct over time. And a huge proof in favor of this is that, again, in nutrition research in the Harvard book that I mentioned, every year they have to change less and less stuff, right? 10 years ago, we would have massively different opinions like every year. Now, for the last like 3 years, the book has been pretty much untouched, like for the last more than 5 years, because our understanding has sort of solidified and gotten closer and closer to what the actual truth of it is. Right? So basically, as a layman, what you need to know is don't listen to advice online. Don't even listen to your doctors. This book has a very good reason on why you should not listen to doctors for your advice. And this is coming from Harvard, by the way. So it's not like you know better than your doctor. The reason is simply that what doctors study often tends to be very outdated research. They're not intentionally lying to you, at least good doctors aren't. But what they study was like a decade or 2 decades ago from the medical school program, right? And the material that they studied was created a decade before they studied it. So the advice they give often is like, can easily be 30 years outdated. And in 30 years, like we just saw in this graph, you might be getting advice from like here or here. And one doctor will give you completely opposite advice of the other. And then you have no idea like who the hell is right. Because most doctors, because of how busy they are and how much work they have, don't have time to keep up with the continuous increase of science, the continuous developments of science, right? They might read 1 or 2 research papers here and there, but they really don't have the time or energy to keep up with it enough to understand everything about health. That's why even for doctors, books like this are really good, right? I think it's almost a doctor's duty to sort of at least skim a book like this on health and on sleep to keep up with their understanding of, you know, what constitutes good health and what constitutes good sleep and what constitutes good eating. So they're not spreading misinformation to the patients. But anyway, so yeah, the answer to this question was essentially sleep well, eat healthy. And we talked about that. But also part of it is smaller things like making sure it's about how stressfully you take your job, right? Most people don't have this luxury most people don't have the luxury of losing their job or quitting their job. But if you do, it is always really good for your mental health to do your job with the mindset that, okay, you could quit anytime if it gets too much. If you get fired, that's okay, right? Because with that mentality, you can do good work and you can set boundaries. that you can fight for. When you set boundaries and when you know you're doing good work, you'll know that you're doing good enough work to not worry about it, not stress about it as much. Because again, even at your work, stressing about what you're doing doesn't actually help you do better work. All it does is make you more tired, which ultimately makes you do worse work. So stress management is very important for this too. And stress management sort of can only come from the idea that, even in the worst case, you won't fucking die and be literally die. Even in the worst case, you'll be okay. So take a deep breath and do your best and do it with boundaries, right? So I think that's a pretty good answer overall. I don't know if it's worth typing something up here, but maybe we should just to accumulate what we've learned so far, right? Others have already talked about eating and sleeping better, but don't know how to do that. Some good resources are Harvard Medical School's Eat, Drink, and Be Healthy book. Every year, they consolidate the entirety of nutrition science research that comes out into developing a holistic understanding what healthy eating is and make it super simple to understand and follow. Just the first 2 chapters book are enough to get started, and you'll never have to look to the massive cloud of dusty information that is the internet. And for sleep, Why We Sleep, I forget who the author of this was. Why We Sleep, Matthew Walker, right? Sleep by Matt is an excellent resource for what actually matters to sleep well, as well as Ali Abdal's comprehensive video on better sleep. I've also personally collected, arranged all sleep related habits into a simple checklist you can follow to guarantee you're getting the best sleep you can. Not allowed to share that here. And then finally, in addition to good sleep and food, you can also easily be drained by stress. I don't yet have a single go-to resource to share stress management, but books like How to stop worrying and start living. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. Yeah, the knack of novel Rubicon are all excellent. Well, a good starting point. Take each with a grain of salt. Not 100% of what they share is accurate information, but a lot of it is incredibly helpful. My 2 cents for this are to understand and accept the worst possible outcome that can happen from failing. No, please. Oh my god. I thought I lost everything I typed. That scared me for a second. I think I accidentally pressed some shorty, but anyway. Accept the worst possible outcome that can happen from failing. For example, getting fired, and how bad that would actually be. Understanding this helps you set boundaries at work and do the best you can without worrying about whether it will be enough. Your best is all you can do. Best. Sarah Kell. Reddit used to let you just do one upvote, now it lets you do 2 upvotes on your own post. That's kind of funny. Just to make people feel better. Okay, let's move on to the next question. The next question here was, my brain waits until 2 a.m. to fix my entire life and it's pissing me off. Well, that's funny. I think we already answered this. This happens specifically because this person is not getting the time to process their unstructured thought during the day. And because they didn't have time to think through all of the things that matter during the day. When they finally go to bed at night, their brain goes, oh, finally I have some time to process the thoughts, and then it starts doing that. Right? So this is solved just by journaling and getting unstructured thought every day. Yeah, exactly. Brain really said working hours are 12 to 4 a.m. only. That's funny. Okay, here I see a lot of people responding, but no one seems to have an actual solution. They're just talking about, they do have the right cause for why this happens, but no one seems to have proposed an actual solution for this. So let's go ahead and type that up here too. Lots of people talked about why this happens, and they are right. But no one seems to have shared the actual solution. So here it is. To this. So here it is. When you think of it like if you don't find time during the day to process your unstructured thoughts, then the brain is going to force it every single time when you finally give it a chance to end. This also hinders your ability massively to get good sleep, which in turn makes your days chaotic, giving you even less time to process your thoughts and allow you to improve your life best. So work out. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, yeah, lots of people have talked about why this happens, and they're right. But no one seems to have shared the actual solution to this. So here it is. I don't know why I'm reading that out. That's weird. Just getting used to the streaming thing, you know? But yeah, we answered the question. Hopefully, the person who posted this question actually sees this answer. And doesn't. I wonder if it would be good to also DM them our solution. Maybe I'll DM these people later. And then, so we started off with these two just because they were interesting questions and they're on the homepage. But as you can see, they already have lots of responses. So let's go ahead and answer some questions from people who don't have as many answers yet. So let's go into new posts here. The newest one is from 20 minutes ago. And let's see what questions people have. We're only going to answer questions that we feel like we can meaningfully add to. If I don't have a good, clear answer, then I'll just address it and skip the question. So, how do you practice true self care? As in caring about yourself without the need for validation, acceptance, admiration, or fear of abandonment? This is a very hard question that, again, honestly, I don't have the answer to. But I do have some good places to start, which are, once again, a few good books. Books do have a lot of. Oh, actually, I do have two things here. One is a solution that's often recommended to people who feel depressed, which is basically to actually improve your life around you. And that will in turn help you feel better about yourself, even if you don't want to. And the second is, just reading a few good books that I'll recommend. Hey, Sora here. That's a tough question to answer. But there are a few things to help you out. Recommend reading a few books and deal with stuff adjacent to this very well. I should first answer the question to the camera and then write it up. So, like I said, this is a tough question to answer, but there's two things you can do. One, you can read a few really good books that help with this. For example, there's Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. There's Nonviolent Communication. That's a little bit less related. But again, there's Novel Ravikant's Almanac. There's The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And books of this nature essentially help you feel better about yourself in some ways by making it more clear. This is a difficult thing to put into words. Let me see if I can write it first, and that might help me think through it. First, I recommend reading a few books that deal with stuff adjacent to this very well. So I would recommend, as far as books go, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. Daring Greatly, also by Brené Brown. Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdal. I don't like adding quotes actually. Feel Good Productivity, that's a really good one. Mindset is another good one. Mindset by Carol Dweck. What else? Let me think. What else have I read that is good? Okay. And then I think beyond these, I'm just going to give my advice. This person also says that even when they tackle self-improvement, they do it from a place of admiration and validation. What could you do about that? I definitely feel somewhat that way myself, but they do go sort of hand in hand. If you improve yourself, then people are just going to admire you a little bit more, and you are going to get more validation over time. But I don't know exactly what they mean by doing it from a place of admiration and validation. I think mindset is less relevant here since they're already focusing on self-improvement and performance. Maybe let's cut out Daring Greatly, dude, just to cut out the noise. I would say these are the best books: Gifts of Imperfection and Feel Good Productivity. For so anyway. Feel good when you do it. And lastly, Green Brown's book, yeah, I think that about sums it up. So I'd recommend reading a few books that deal with stuff adjacent to this, like Feel Good Productivity and Gifts of Imperfection. The first one, the book by Ali Abdaal, is all about how a lot of people chase productivity, but they can sometimes not do it in a way that feels good while doing it, and that in itself ultimately ends up being counterproductive. So it's important to be productive, specifically in ways that actually helps you feel good while you do it. So that book I would highly recommend. It was a really good book. And the second one is Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown, which basically talks about accepting our imperfections. I've also read Daring Greatly by her, which I really liked. And yeah. Oh, I forgot to throw in my best Sora Keldon down there. Best Sora Keldon. There you go. Okay, who else needs help? Helping people does feel good, especially in ways that could give them a more longer lasting, meaningful benefit than just, buying them a meal or something of the sort. Okay, let's see the next question. Posting into the void. Well, lucky for you, I'm here. And I think based on the time, I'm going to say this is the last question I'll answer. Let's take a look. Oh, haha. This is actually a very good question to segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about. But let me take a water break really quickly first. Yeah, when I spend a lot of time not talking English, my brain definitely starts to get more jumbled when I try to talk. So I think it's gonna take me like a week to really get used to talking again. But let's see, this is also a very common story that people bring to me and ask me for help on, which is just generally how do you get a better career? Once again, there are some really, really good books. I guess let me finish reading the question. I don't want to just skim it. I'm an average 31-year-old female, went to trade school right out of high school for medical assisting. I thought that was it. I did something productive and would forever have a career in the medical field. I planned to continue my education and become a nurse or PA. I had it all figured out. Only one issue, I hated it. More so, I couldn't handle it. Too stressful, too much sadness. The curtain had been pulled and I saw for the first time what real life is like. I lasted 3 years, that's impressive, and had to quit. This took a huge toll on me mentally. I feel weak. Seeing others excel at something that was impossible for me. It didn't make sense as it was instilled in me that I could do anything I put my mind to. But this was no longer true. Since then, I've just worked meaningless jobs that pay decently, but I hate them. 6 months into a job and I start having mental breakdowns. Therapy, antidepressants, ADHD medication, bipolar medication. I was desperate looking for a solution. Looking for any way to relieve this feeling of being a failure and wasting my life. Nothing has helped, and as the years go by, I'm losing hope that there is even a career that exists that would be fulfilling and also pays decently. The thing is, I can go to school for something or get certified in something, but everything I think of, I talk myself out of due to this or that. I don't want to waste time or money on something I will end up hating again. I don't want to let myself down again. This is a very good question, and a very good question to end on, I think. They obviously have a lot of issues, and especially when giving advice to someone who's dealt with antidepressants, ADHD medication, bipolar medication, as someone who myself is not a doctor or licensed as a therapist or psychologist in any way whatsoever, you need to be really careful so you don't accidentally end up worsening the situation. So I limit myself to giving absolutely only textbook advice with very little personal bias if I can. So let's see what we can help here. Hey, Sora here. First, it's good to acknowledge what they said too, I think. It's very... It's a tough, but unfortunately not an uncommon situation people find themselves in. There's a few steps. Let me write some notes. Structure, discovery. Define what you love. Preserve resources to alleviate mental burden. Let's change the music for a second. Where is it? Let's go for a more relaxing vibe. Well, I've had one view. Streaming for 52 minutes. That's fine. Let's see. What can we do? Takes time to make money doing something we love. Till you do. Good books. Let's see. Hmm. What other books? Hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, that's that. Yeah. I think I realized that typing text on stream is not the best way to entertain an audience that might be watching. So maybe next time I'll do this part before the stream and then on stream just talk about what I wrote. I think that makes more sense. Let me go ahead and write down in my stream tips. Okay. Now I'm exhausted. What can I do instead of, once again, ending stream about 1 hour in, I'd say. Let's see, how far am I in? 1 hour? Where is my YouTube? Let's see how far in I am. And then let's see. Yeah, it's been about an hour and a half. That's good. So, real quick, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and change the music. Or let's just take a break from music for a second. What I'm going to do is go ahead and talk about the structured goals that I just wrote about. So this was a long answer, but the most important part of it that I wanted to share with everyone live is this. So a lot of people ask me, how should I find my life goals? And I don't know what I want to do in life. I don't know. I don't have any hobbies. I don't know what my interests are. I'm too busy working, and so on. But what I found is that there is a simple structured process you can follow to find your life goals, right? And the heart of it is essentially finding what you want to do by doing a bunch of stuff. But like I said, there is a structure to this. So first, it's quite simple, so it'll take less than 5 minutes for me to explain this. First, pull up a notes app and then list down every single thing that you could possibly be interested in. Whether that's directing a movie or acting in one, whether that's learning to code and making an app, whatever it is, write down every interest you could possibly have. Take a day or two if you need to do this. Then you can go through these interests and think about for each whether it's something you would be willing to do for an hour every single day for a month. And you can think about this in some hypothetical future month where you do have the free time and the financial freedom to do this, right? And this will sort of help you figure out what things truly interest you versus what interests are sort of just fleeting or something you want to look into for a few hours, but not actually dip your toes properly into, right? So once you've done this, you should have Once you've done this, you should once you've done this, you should have filtered out all of the fleeting goals and should be left with things that you actually might want to try. Next, you can go through these again and think about which of these you would spend 4 hours every single day trying for a month, right? And now this is a considerably bigger commitment, right? This would take a lot of time and effort and energy for that month. So when you think about which you would actually want to do for this will really help find if there's anything that you really want to try pursuing. What are your real interests, right? What are your real interests that you would love to learn about, that you would love to try? And once you've done this, you should have all your major and minor goals at hand. Now, the next part is actually just spending the next 30 days as soon as you get a chance, deciding how much free time you have in those 30 days and picking one or two goals appropriately from your list, right? You can pick a major goal if you have that kind of time. If you don't, just pick a minor one and then actually spend 30 days doing that every single day. Because forcing yourself to do this every day will not only help you engage with the interest on days that you feel like it, but will also help you see what it feels like to do it on a day when you aren't really in the mood or don't have the energy, but you still have to force yourself to do it. Because that's kind of what having a career can be like, right? Because if your career is making YouTube videos, then you can't just for most people, you can't just decide, I'm going to make a YouTube video now and then not for another year. You have to do it sometimes even when you don't want to. And some people might realize that, oh, I thought making YouTube videos might be cool, but actually doing it every day is really hard. And on the days that I don't want to do it, I really don't want to do it. So maybe it's not a good career choice for me. But when you're trying out all of your goals like this one by one in 30 days chunks, you will also learn a lot of stuff, both building skills that help you with various range of tasks, but also things that help future goals. And by exploring doing something, you will find dozens of adjacent things to what you were exploring. And you'll see what there actually is that you might like. Because when you're starting out right now, you don't even know what you don't know. But the more you explore, the more you actually do, the more you'll realize that, oh, I tried doing this and I didn't like most of it, but I like this part of it. So maybe I'll explore the areas adjacent to that part. For example, if you were making YouTube videos, maybe you realize you don't really like talking on a camera, but you do really enjoy sharing your ideas. So maybe you should become a writer instead and try starting a blog. Right? So that's the sort of exploration that this gives you. And also, I really want to emphasize that the skills you'll be building doing this will make you feel like you're working towards something meaningful. And also by limiting the exploration to 30 days, you won't feel guilty about stopping after the 30 days if you didn't like it, right? Because it's just something you were trying for 30 days. It's not something you're committing a career path to. And this is the best way to very quickly learn what you actually like and don't, and learn all of the adjacent paths that exist in life. And you'll quickly start getting a sense for what you actually like doing versus what you don't. And this over time will sort of consolidate into what feels like a direction for life. Over time, you'll find the things that you're good at, that you enjoy doing, and then you can start building an income stream from that. Right? For example, if you really enjoy writing and you've now spent like 30-day sprints practicing it in different contexts, maybe you can spend another 30 days trying to write for a professional blog, trying to write op-eds for a newspaper, right? Trying to get your writing published in small sections, or trying to write a novel in 30 days. No matter what kind of thing you like. But for example, like even in writing, even if what you like is writing, you try writing for 30 days and you'll realize, oh, I don't like short writing. I like fiction writing. I don't like nonfiction. And then maybe when you write nonfiction, you'll realize, oh, actually, I didn't like nonfiction. But it's only by doing that you find these answers, right? Committing to a blind career like most people do by just, I'll get a degree in computer science or I'll get a degree in English, is like marrying someone the first day you meet them. You have no idea what you're getting into, right? So really actually trying things in coordinated sprints will give you a good microcosm of what that life will actually be like and help you make informed decisions on what you actually want to be a career. But yeah, that's it. And then Range is also another really good book on the same topic. Let me add that in here actually. Range. Who wrote Range? David Epstein. That is an unlucky name to have. By David Epstein. There you go. Okay. Something went wrong. Oh no. No, why isn't it working? Huh? Whatever, this is fine. Well, that's all of the educational part of the stream that I had for today. I've done that and I've done that. Now, I guess let me take another quick break and then we'll just do some app dev till I get bored. Let's see. Here's my app. Open chat. I don't know if the chat messages thing is actually working. Because I did again. Another test chat. Is it actually working? I don't know. Well, I guess I'll see. Doesn't look like I can see the messages. Test 4. Don't see the message popping up on Ghost Chat. I'm not sure why. Ghost Chat not working. Let's figure this out while we're here. Don't tell me my stream was anonymous again today. No, it is public. Why is Ghost Chat not working? Hmm. Hmm. I see. No, I don't believe that. Hmm. I'll have to figure out this chat overlay later. Okay. In the meantime, let's just end the stream doing some React content. Let's watch something on YouTube. I don't know if Rocket League is the best React content. There are two kinds of hunger. TRXQC. There are two kinds of hunger. Wait, this is an official live action? What the hell? It's kind of awesome. What is this? This is my favorite game of all time, but I don't know if the live action will be good, because what makes the game good is not like an incredible storyline. It's just a very immersive world with very immersive mechanics. And with a TV show, it's very hard to, I don't know, engage the viewer with world building as opposed to story. You really do need to have a really solid story, which just depends on good writers. Oh, apparently this guy's a friend of my friend.
Okay, so I was just doing some vibe coding, and I noticed that Claude Code is something really weird that I had never seen before. Whereby, okay, so I was.
Yeah, he's doing pretty much the same thing I'm doing. Teaching a course, making some apps, and making YouTube videos. Let's see. Anthropic just dropped the feature nobody knew they needed. Okay, let's see.
And I noticed that Claude Code is something really weird that I had never seen before. Whereby randomly said include 6 memories. And I was like, what is going on here? Because I follow the changelog pretty aggressively, and there was no mention of anything like this anywhere recently. So I did some digging with Cloud Code, and I got us to look through the binary file and do some like self.
Let me know if this stream is loud enough.
Feature that Anthropic added to Cloud Code that they haven't yet announced, but is working. And that feature is essentially called Auto Dream. Now, if you have been using Cloud Code for a long time,
what a weird Auto Dream is such a cheesy name.
Issue whereby you would start a brand new session, and the agent just wouldn't quite remember what you did yesterday. It didn't really have a memory. And then the Cloud Code team added something called auto memory about 2 months ago, whereby Cloud could automatically write notes for itself based on your corrections and preferences.
Hasn't ChatGPT always done this? And so does Cursor, I think.
So you would have noticed this if you went to your .cloud folder, went to projects, and in all your projects there would be a memory folder with memories about that particular project. And
okay.
These memories would automatically be inserted into the context window whenever you're working. But then this introduced a brand new problem. whereby in session one, you would have a pretty fresh, clean, and relevant memory. And then as you go on, you would notice that Claude Code decides to add more and more stuff to its memory, and you get noise and contradictions and stuff like that. And then by session 20, you notice your memory is just full of noise, has a bunch of contradictions, and it is kind of making your model.
Yeah,
And Claude did have some
that's definitely been my experience.
telling it to verify that the memory is still correct and up to date, but that didn't really do a good job. But then the Cloud Code team added a brand new feature that they haven't yet announced called Auto Dream. So if you do slash memory in your project, then you'll notice it says Auto Dream on over here, and you can turn this off and on. And then you can also open your project's memory folder from here as well. And I think that by naming the feature, they were kind of inspired by humans.
That is really funny.
Watching a video, not an AI agent, then throughout your day, your brain is taking in a lot of new information, conversations, decisions, things that you read, and all of this goes into a short-term memory. And if everything just stayed there in the short-term memory,
Yeah.
you'd quickly become overwhelmed. But when you sleep, at least during REM sleep, your brain can replay the day's events and consolidates them and strengthens what matters. And then also deletes what doesn't matter and organizes everything into a long-term memory. And that is the reason why people who don't sleep enough literally can't form long-term memories. Their short-term memory fills up and then they start confusing things and making contradictory decisions.
Yeah, this also makes you feel like your life is kind of just flying by because you're living on autopilot. And this also makes you feel a lot busier throughout the day because there's just so much more in your mind and it's kind of unorganized that you always feel like you're missing something and you're lagging behind, or you just feel like your day is so busy. Whereas people who sleep well and spend time doing unstructured thought just have a clear head, which no matter how actually busy they are, they're able to focus on only the task at hand with a clear mind. And that just makes them be comfortable even with a really busy schedule. So a lot of times you'll have people who are actually really busy but seem to manage it effortlessly, and then other people who really don't have that much to do but tend to get overwhelmed a lot regardless.
And until now, even though Cloud Code had an auto memory feature, it was kind of sleep deprived where I kept adding random things to memory that may have not been relevant. But now with this auto dream mode, essentially
I like this human analogy, it's kind of funny.
and then figures out what is relevant, adds new things to the memories, and then deletes other old stale memories.
I also like the art he's using on Excalibur. Wait, how is he using art on Excalibur? Are these AI generated images?
That are not relevant. And you can see this in action by first enabling auto dream by doing slash memory and making sure that is on. And right now, the slash dream, like,
Dude, I should prepare slides and have presentations. Yes. Okay, tomorrow, try preparing notes and or slides / visuals for Atrioc style presentations. Specific topic. Can start by trying this for a simple structured process tomorrow on Excalibur.
command doesn't like it because it hasn't officially been rolled out to everyone, this particular skill. But if you just kind of tell Cloud Code like dream, other dream, dream whatever, then you can see right here it started dreaming. So if I do slash tasks, then I can see that dreaming in action. So you can see it says
Interesting.
reviewing 913 sessions. So it's saying starting memory consolidation dream, let me orientate first. So maybe if you're watching this later on, the slash dream thing will actually work. Now you can see what it's doing is it's going through all the previous sessions. So it says, let me gather recent signal from transcripts. I'll search for key patterns across the 913 sessions. So it's searching for user feedback, corrections, important decisions, and recurring themes automatically in the background. So whilst we're waiting for this to complete, I'll quickly explain what's happening behind the scenes. So we essentially have 3 different phases of this auto dreaming process. Phase 1 is orientation, which you can see that it's currently doing, where it said I will orientate myself first. And essentially what it does is it reads through the current memory directory to kind of figure out like, okay, what do we have so far? And then kind of figures out what it needs to be searching based on previous sessions. And then it starts to gather recent signal. So it starts to go through the session transcripts of all your previous Claude Code sessions, which are stored locally on your computer in these kind of files right over here. So the JSON L files. And it basically starts searching through all of them to try and find any relevant signal, new information, and identify drifted or stale memories that it can then remove. And then phase 3 is the consolidation phase, whereby it merges new information into existing topics. It writes any dates as well. So for example, if the memory says the words today or yesterday, then it would get the exact date, and it would like remove and organize any contradictions. And the reason I know that this is happening, like behind the scenes, is because I used a proxy to extract the exact system prompts that is being used, and it kind of looks like this over here. So we have phase 1 orientation, phase 2 gathering signal, phase 3 consolidating, and then we have one more phase called pruning and indexing. Because the main memory.md file for your project should be an index referencing other types of memories rather than being the memories itself. So 6 minutes later, it's still underway reviewing the memories. And do bear in mind that during this process, we can be using Claude.
This is a really good feature. It's also a very simple feature. Like this is something that you might have thought that they already have, because yeah, of course, if you have a shit ton of memories for an LLM, you want them to be consolidated. Like when memories first came out in ChatGPT like a year or two ago, I thought they literally already did this. It's kind of shocking that this is coming out in Cloud Code now.
Normally,
I don't even know anymore if OpenAI does this.
you will be dreaming in the background. So this dreaming does not actually stop you from like using Claude Code. Now, before
Yeah, of
continuing,
course.
if you spend all day in Claude Code like me, then you may want to sign up to my free Claude Code newsletter. I send it out every time I find something interesting in Claude Code, and signing up does give you access to a bunch of free videos covering ideas that you won't find anywhere else on YouTube. Now, this auto
Nice.
feature does not run constantly behind the scenes. It checks for 2 conditions. Firstly, has 24 hours passed since the last consolidation? And secondly, have more than 5 sessions happened since then? And you don't have to worry about it accidentally making changes to your project's files because it runs in a read-only mode when it comes to your project's code, but has write access to the memory files themselves.
Yeah, I really like this art style that he's using
Which means that 2
for the
instances
presentation.
can't run at the same time on the same project. Anyways, we can see that after about 8-9 minutes, it consolidated those memories behind the scenes. And then I can see the consolidated files here. So there's one about me and my own role. There's another one about any recent activity inside the project. And then there's the main index file. And then
I didn't like. Already
now,
subscribed.
as a meta point, what I've been finding interesting.
Sorry, cut him off, but that's all that was interesting. Also, did you hear a fuck pop just now? When I stopped that, I heard like a physical pop. I don't know if the speaker glitched or YouTube glitched or what. Let's see. Hey, Anki flashcards. This guy does seem like he and I would get along pretty well. Organized Cambridge student using Anki flashcards. Oh, this video is doing really well. It's his 3rd more popular. Nice. I'm happy for him. Much better than his recent videos. This might even hit 100K. Nice. Yeah, it does look like he has the thumbnails down though. And then he's just working on getting better ideas. He's definitely grinding. Definitely seems to be posting consistently, like at least a few videos every month. But okay. Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop today's stream. So I guess I'll see you guys next time. And yeah. Bye. Bye.